Hello, Twitch. Welcome to another episode of The Takeaway with me, your host, Munif Saza. And today we have a very special guest. It is our own Daniel Quijano. Daniel Quijano is our guest today. We are going to be recording the podcast known as The Closer's Corner. For those of you who do not know who Daniel is a closer. He is an excellent salesman. He has been teaching sales before I was even born, and he was a contender in the Closers Olympics last year. So Daniel has been a mentor to me, a brother to me, and a friend to me. He has helped me so much in my real estate sales journey. So it's always an honor to have Daniel on the takeaway with us. Daniel's incredible. He actually hosts the nightly dial in Sub 2. And for those of you who do not know what the nightly dial is, the nightly dial is similar to the daily dial, which takes place every day. But unlike the daily dial, which is just role play, the nightly dial is live seller calls. So it's live seller calls. We do it about 4 hours every single evening in Sub 2, and Daniel Quijano actually hosts it. He is in charge of it. He organizes it. He manages it, and he absolutely gives feedback. It's very similar to a sales boot camp. It's incredible. It's amazing, and Daniel is the host of the Sub 2 nightly dial. Now, I think he's running into some technical issues. I don't think he has gotten the link. So while we wait for him, let's do a little bit of Q&A. Let's answer your questions. What's going on, Twitch? How are you guys doing this lovely Wednesday afternoon? How is everybody? I see viewers are trickling in. That's amazing. That is fantastic. So this is the time. If you guys have any questions, I don't care what they're related to. If it could be, how do I find private money? How do I structure this creative deal? How do I how do I fix and flip a property? Whatever it is, this is your time to ask me questions while we wait for Daniel to jump on the show. Let me send him a text message. I'll tell you guys about a deal I'm working on. If nobody has any questions right now, I'll tell you guys a deal. There is a San Francisco property that I have under contract. The property is worth, it's valued at $1.01 million. Nicole's like, tell me, lol, what's up, Manif? Yeah, so it's Colby Street in San Francisco. It's worth about I think it's 1.15 million. And we got it under contract at $900,000 under contract. And it's not even a cash deal. It's a creative deal using creative financing. We actually got it at 0% interest to the seller with a $10,000 down payment. And I've had people say, holy cow, this is unreal. How did you get this deal? How did you get this deal? And the way we got the deal was by solving the seller's problem. The seller has this huge problem, which was they had a tenant that they could not evict. They tried evicting the tenant 3 times. And they were not able to evict the tenant. They took the tenant to court multiple times. The tenant is a menace to society. The tenant is a total menace to society. Broke neighbors' windows, flicks people off in the street, stomps, on the floor because there's a second unit underneath the main unit, and just scares the hell out of people. So the landlords tried to evict the tenant 3 times. No one wants to buy the house. Realtors actually can't even get anywhere near the house. In San Francisco, there are local and state laws that need apparently some kind of a tenant signature before you can even list the property. So the way we solve the seller's problem is, hey, we will take this tenant to court. And the tenant in San Francisco, tenants get free legal representation for all eviction related matters. So the seller was at a disadvantage because he did not get an attorney for each each visit to the courtroom. He never had an attorney. He wasn't able to actually afford an attorney. The tenant got free legal representation. When you have a lawyer and the other party doesn't, it immediately puts them at a disadvantage. Seller had to settle 3 times. I told the seller, hey, I will handle this tenant situation. You will get paid. You'll be able to actually make some money here. I know how much you bought it for. You're going to actually come out of this as a winner. Let me handle this. Let me make payments to you over this amount of time. And it was a deal. We signed the paperwork, and now we're actually preparing to go to a lawsuit for this property. I will keep you guys posted on the details. I see Daniel just getting ready to sit down. Hey, what's up, man?
What is going on? So I'm sitting here in this link. Apparently, it's not one standard link that StreamYard sends.
Oh, what? Oh, were you in the other link?
Uh-huh.
The older one? Oh, yeah. So every time we do this, there's a new link. So
I didn't know that. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, maybe he's, whatever. But I made it, and I'm here, and I'm happy to be here. How are you?
I'm good, bro. I'm so happy you're here, man. I'm
so like a lot's been happening. Like it's been a busy couple weeks. I feel like a lot has transpired. How's the weather in your woods, bro? Like what's going on?
Bro, I just had an unreal seller call yesterday. It was Love Francis and one of her JV partners had this deal, Houston, Texas. It was a seller. She was going to do terms. And I'm like asking, Love and her partner, I think his name is Garrett. I'm like, hey, what's the seller situation? What's the pain? And they didn't have answers. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I'm like, don't be afraid to lose this deal, because it sounds like from the terms, it sounds like the seller is very greedy and they have no real motivation. Like they wanted like 10% down. They wanted 100K above retail and 4% interest, 7-year balloon. They wanted like their cake. They wanted to eat it too. So I get on the phone with the seller and I'm building a rapport. I'm doing it. And Love and Garrett are actually, it's like a 4-way call. And I asked the seller, I'm like, what's important to you about selling this property? Or I asked like a very innocuous question. And I find out firsthand she's a red seller.
Nice.
Just from her accent and name, she's Middle Eastern and she's red.
Okay.
And she like took me to the cleaner. She's like, that is the most annoying question I've ever been asked in my life. Total bullshit. I'm sure she's.
Which question was the most annoying question?
What's the most important thing to you about selling this property?
Okay.
Right. She's like, you're asking my life story. She's like, she starts going off. You want my life story, huh? You want my life story? You want to know why I'm selling? You want to know this, that, and the other? That is the most annoying and insulting question I've ever been asked.
Really?
And it was amazing, bro. Because I'm here like I'm like I got her. Like I got her.
Okay.
Right. I'm like I got her. And I let her just insult me. She's like starts insulting me, who I am as a person. And it was funny because I naturally did it, but if you were there, you would have actually, because you're so technical, right? And I'm not as technical as you. You're so technical with this stuff. I just kind of do it.
Yeah.
Later, right? I matched her, right? And I go, after she's done, I go, okay, no problem. I'm not going to ask you what you want. I'm not going to ask you what you care about. I typically do, because a lot of people respond well to that, but you don't. You just want to talk business, right? She's like, yes. I'm like, you just want to make a deal between 2 business people and keep it at that, right? She's like, yeah, exactly. I go, okay, you want this, you want 4%. Where's the wiggle room there? Can I do 2%? She's like, no. She's like, I will not take a dime under, 4%. I'm like, okay, you want a 7-year balloon, right? Is there any flexibility there? She goes, no, not at all. Absolutely not. I go, okay, you want 10% down. Is there any flexibility there? And she's like, nope. I'm like, okay, so how is this a business deal? You told me let's talk business. You don't want to talk anything else. You're taking. And I mirrored her, right? I'm like, you're taking. How am I a good businessman if I can't even negotiate? There's 3 things I can negotiate on.
Okay, what'd you say to that?
She said, okay, fine, you can negotiate on the purchase price.
Okay.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the best purchase price you can do? And she actually comes down $75,000.
Okay.
And that's still too high. I'm like, that's too high. She's like, well, what's the best purchase price you can do? And I said, I'll give you Zillow. She's like, I could sell Zillow for cash. And I said, all right, let me come back. Let's talk business. Let's not BS. Let me come back and underwrite this and give you my purchase price. But I'm going to need some things from you. You have to give somewhere for this to make sense. I can tell I'm the only person who can actually help you in this case sell this. I know you don't need to sell, because she said that. You don't need to sell. But if we did a deal, it has to make sense for the both of us, right? So it was the same kind of energy that she had, but I kept it respectful, obviously. And then at the end, I said, she's like, okay, thank you, that makes sense. I said, this is like where people who are red, if you can figure them out, they will love you forever. I said, you've been doing this for a while, haven't you? She goes, I could tell she's smiling. She's like, yeah. I go, you are an excellent negotiator. You are so good at what you do. She goes, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much. Right? I could hear her smiling on the other end.
Then you got the rapport side.
So she was thanking me. She was like, hey, I'm really looking forward to working with you. Right. So then I guess what I had Garrett send her an email, and it's less than 10%. It's less than the price she's asking. And I said, it's either going to piss her off or she's going to want to work. Regardless, she will still pick up the phone when I call her.
Yep.
That's how you work with red sellers. They don't care, this or that or this or that. They want to stick to the point in the business, and you just have to match that and say, okay, we're going to talk business. If you want to take the humanity or the human equation out of it, you want to just do business, let's do business, but you can't just take. I need to win too. If you just want to win and you don't want to give me anything I need for my business model, this is not a business transaction. This is what a loan shark does.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
It was a great, it was actually a great call. Love and Garrett said they learned a lot from it. And red sellers, you get some of the best deals sometimes from a red seller. Some of the best
you
deals.
do.
You just have to make them feel a certain way. Go ahead.
No. I mean, you just have to cut through the stuff, right? You have to know. So
Right.
It's funny that you talk about red sellers. Literally just had a call. I just sent it out. One of my lead managers called on this deal. And let me see if I can read to you the comment that they put in regards to okay. This person is ready to sell, doesn't want to repeat herself a million times. She said the person that makes the most memorable impression is someone who is going to come back with an offer. She's sick of dealing with people calling and just wants to sell. She says that if she's not selling to us, she's going to sell to the next person who has an offer. She only wants to speak to the person who's coming to her with the money. She had 100% no interest in talking to me. Right? Just had a conversation with her. And I almost want to release this call. And here's why I want to release this call. Not because it was just this splendidly amazing call, right? I was driving in the snow with Starbucks through like this one street on the way to my house that's really bad. It cuts out like 3 or 4 times. So like there's just dead. You can't hear anything. They can't hear you. And so this is what I'm up against. I have no information on the property. I just know I need to call this person back, right? And so I'm like, let me just call them now. I have a window. I'm going to be in the car. Let me just call. Now, most people, when they're knowing that this is the type of person that they're encountering, right? And she goes into explaining more about, how it just wasn't a good conversation. And so most people would freak out. They want to get prepped. I'm like leaving a Starbucks drive-thru and I'm calling knowing that I'm about to be driving through a bunch of dead zones. And I just started the conversation letting her know. And I started the conversation off with something to the effect of, I was like, hey, my name's Daniel. So you talk to somebody on my team. And from what I understand, you have absolutely no interest talking to anybody who's going to blow smoke and go back and forth with nonsense, right? And she starts laughing.
Yep. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Done.
And then she
Got
starts
it.
talking about she's in business, and I was like, nobody told me it was a real estate mogul, and it was just immediate walls down. She ended the call saying, she was like, "Look, I don't mean to be rude, but if you're not going to call me back with my number, just don't even call back." I was like, "But what if I want to at least say bye?" She's like, "Look, unless you're taking me out on a date, you know what I mean? You're going to run away with me, you know what I mean?" Yeah. So my girlfriend's in the car, and I told her, I was like, "You're going to get me stabbed," but like what you said is exactly right. They can be very intimidating. You just got to know how to approach them. You spoke her language until she started speaking your language, which was you were allowed to compliment her. You were allowed to be nice to her. You were allowed to care about her. She didn't want to hear that at first. I was prepared in advance that this is the type of person she was. So I just threw the elephant out of the room right away. Just to kind of do that.
No one told me. They're like, she's so nice. She's so willing to work. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be easy. Like, hey, what's important to you about selling this house?
Yeah.
What are you trying? I said, my favorite question ever is like, what are you trying to accomplish with the sale of this property? She was so insulted. I asked her that.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, look, like some people love that question. Like, it's cool that you don't. That's fine. Like, whatever. Yeah. Like, let's talk business. Like, she's like, I'm here to talk about the property. So I'm like, all right, let's talk business. You're taking. So calling her out, right? You're locking this in, you're locking this in, you're locking this in. How as a businessman can I do business if I can't even compromise, if I can't even negotiate?
Yeah.
And so she's working on the thing. And it's actually, funny thing is, it's actually a good deal as it sits.
Really?
It actually makes sense.
That's good.
Right? But Daniel, how am I a good businessman if I don't negotiate?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right? I could just give her terms. It actually makes money. Like, we cash flow. It's in Houston. It's great. But I need to make sure it works. So, like, for example, she wants 10% down. I can actually do that, right? I can actually, because the house has been remodeled. So that means I have zero repair costs. So whatever I would have been spending on the repair can actually go to her, right?
Yeah.
But what I would do here and say, look, I need to get a home inspector in there and find these little things, right? Whatever it is that I would have to do anyways once I buy it. You're telling me this thing. All of those things, I want it credited from the down payment. The purchase price can be the same. And then red sellers need to feel like they won more than any other seller. Red sellers.
They really do. They really do. And you need to like, so for example, the lady I talked to today,
right.
She's one of the reasons she wants to sell this property cash is because she wants to put some money into Airbnb. So I literally told her, I was like, I'm about to be on a podcast with a guy who that's one of his primary businesses. They do Airbnbs. Happy to help. Oh, well, I got it. I got it. She's never done Airbnbs before, but she doesn't need any help because she knows what she's doing, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I threw the help out there a couple of times and I was like, yeah, but you probably don't need any help. She's like, no, I got it. Right. So, it's just one of those things. You got to know who you're talking to. And here's the cool thing. It's a great way to disqualify somebody, right? Because if you're talking to a seller and when you like that line that you said, I think is really important. I think people don't really realize how important that can be when you say, well, how am I supposed to be a good business person if you're not giving me any room to negotiate? A red seller who's actually interested making a deal will probably concede to that. Usually, 8 times out of 10, they're going to concede to that, right?
Yeah.
If they don't concede to that, then you're just dealing with an asshole, right? And that's not just a red seller. You're just dealing with an asshole that doesn't care about anybody but themselves,
right? And they're not going to sell their property, and so, bro, like, I saw she listed the property, and we're talking. I want to get her under 500K. She listed it 650. Dropped it to 625, dropped it to 600, dropped it to 580. And, we're in the 400s now. And so she's going to give me pushback, right? And I'm going to show her what I'm going to do. And this is a strategy anybody here can do. I'm going to go to bankrate.com. I'm going to show at 4% interest what she's going to make in 7 years. I'm going to say, look, you're going to get, hell, I could even pull it up right now, but I'm guessing it's about, $100,000 just in interest. You can show her that. I can say, look, you're getting $550,000 out of this house from this deal, right? And you're going to put that on the table for what? You're going to walk away from that for what? No one else is offering you this kind of cash.
Yeah.
Right. And she's smart. I'll tell her, you're amortizing it over 7 years. You're mostly getting interest from me. And when I buy this, or when I refinance this in 7 years, you're going to get the purchase price. So you're walking away with a lot. I just need an extension. I need a 3-year extension, because what if the market crashes?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I need an extension in case the property doesn't appraise. I also can't justifiably overpay for this house.
Yeah.
I can't make that purchase price anywhere above 450, 460. And once I get those down, right, and she likes it, I'm then going to negotiate the down payment. I'm not going to negotiate too many things at once. Once we lock those in, I'll say, hey, you told me the house was in great condition. What if it's not? What do we do?
Yeah.
What if I send my inspectors there and it needs $20,000 in repairs?
Yeah.
Whatever that number is, if I show you that report, whatever that estimate is, well, can we take it out of the down payment? I'm not going to take it out of the purchase price. I'll fix it, and you get to sell the house for the same amount. It just doesn't go to your pocket today. I just spend it fixing it out of my pocket. Right? Any reasonable person would say, sure, no problem. But you don't lead with that. You bring that in right when it's close to the finish line.
You know what's funny, man? I think people underestimate the value in just showing the numbers to sellers, right? Just breaking it down. I talk about this in the Nightly Dial a lot. I will do this when if I'm on a call with a seller and I'm running numbers and their comps are all over the place. Like, guys, just people underestimate the value of just having a real conversation, you know? So if I'm having a conversation with the seller and I'm looking through the numbers and they're like, oh, this house, I want 300. Everybody's saying it's 300. The houses are selling in 300. And we've all had this happen. If you talk to a seller, you've had the scenarios where they say the house is worth 300, and then you go and you look, and like the last house sold for like 180, right, or 175. 0 houses sold for 300, right? You may have heard one listed, and you saw that thing listed and pending for the last year on Zillow, and you thought that that was a house that was sold because you don't know what you're looking for, right? And so I will literally go on while I'm having the conversation, and I'm gonna be like, where did you see that, right? And I'm not gonna freak out. Oh no, that's not that. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not gonna go through my script and be like, well, I understand that you want that, but we're cash offers, and we need to make some money, but we'll close fast and we'll cover closing costs. I'm not hitting them with that pitch, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a conversation with them. I'm gonna say, okay, so you're saying 300. That's interesting. So where did you see that? Oh, Zillow. Okay, great. Okay, I'm looking at Zillow right now. Do you know which house it was? I'm letting them know that I'm taking interest in their perspective. I'm letting them know that, hey, if this is your number and it's a right number, fair. I'm willing to give you your number. Let me just do my own work. So I'm looking at it, and if I find it on Zillow and I say, okay, I see the house here. Was it this one? Oh, okay, well, that's listed. It didn't sell, but it's listed. Here's what's interesting, and maybe you can clear this up for me. I have some real estate software that I use, and it's just specialty back-end software. It gives me access to all of the data in the county and all the stuff that's happened. And all of the houses that I'm looking at here, they're showing, like, I'm looking and I'm going to read. There's one that sold in October, and it sold for 150. This one sold for 170. This one's even bigger than yours, and it sold for this. So you're saying 300 and you're saying 300. All of the information I'm seeing is saying 180. Like, what's going on here? Because this is weird. Like, this is a really big gap. Where's the discrepancy? What am I missing? And almost inherently, they're going to stutter for a second because they realize, okay, shoot, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. And one of a couple things will happen. They'll either tell me exactly where they found it, and they'll start pulling it up and start realizing that, oh, shoot, I was wrong. Or they'll ask me where I'm seeing this. And I will literally, don't even know how many times I've done this. I will take a picture of what I'm looking at. I'll say, here's your house. Here's this. I was like, can I text you with this number? Yeah. And then I will text them the picture. And I say, this is what I'm looking at. This is the software. Like, if your number is the right number, I have no problem seeing if we can get to your number. I want to make a fair deal for everyone. But obviously, it's not fair if both of us are wrong, right? And I just have this conversation. And almost inherently what happens in that circumstance is one of a couple things. They almost never make a decision right then, because it's a gigantic paradigm shift from what they were expecting. But they also don't get off the phone with me. I've never had someone I've done that with get pissed at me and be like, oh, you're giving me BS numbers. They're always like, oh, okay, let me do a little bit of homework. And one of the two things usually happens at that point. One, I've disqualified somebody, which is an amazing thing to do. We talk about this all the time. Disqualifying is just as important as qualifying. And if they come back and they're like, you know what? I didn't realize that the house is worth that little. doesn't make sense for me to sell anymore. I
Yep.
realize I probably should stay here for a little while longer. Amazing. Now you know how to help people. You answer people when they call you. I've saved you a bunch of headache. It's a win-win. I don't have to bother you anymore.
Yep.
2, okay, I thought about this for a couple of days. I didn't expect it. What can we do? And then they start telling me all the reasons and all the things they had planned with that money. And how do we fill this gap? Now we're the only person who's been honest with them. And we are now the person that, because we're the only ones that told them the truth in a respectful way, we are now the people they're hoping will help solve their problem.
Yep.
And we get to do what we do.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So to your point, but that's a basic seller variation of going to a person who knows what they're doing and going to bank rate. You just have to have the real conversation with them and just talk about the real numbers. I think a lot of times people get caught up in having the best line or the best closing statement or the best pitch. And sometimes you just need to have a real conversation and just show them the numbers. That's really the best pitch.
I want to see how much I'm going to be how much this seller is going to make 30 years on bank rate.
When you make your first million, will you cash out me like $50?
Bro, when I make my first million cash, right? Because having million in equity is actually not.
That's different. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So when my bank account cash hits 1 million, number one, I'm doing something wrong because what
you're trying to spend everything that you get.
I have to spend it. I have to put it to work, right? But let's say I get there because I'm making so much money so fast. It's hard to spend it all because that's a problem sometimes. You and I, let's go. I'll pay for a like a retreat somewhere.
Let's
we'll
do
go,
it.
We'll bring we'll bring our friends, whoever, right? And we'll go out on a retreat, like
do something crazy.
Yeah. But
yeah, I think we're undervaluing the benefits of doing just like big get-togethers with people who are doing real estate and just going and just doing stuff. You know what I mean? Just hanging out, doing business, going to Mexico or renting out a villa or something.
Right, exactly. So I love that. So I'm looking on bank rate right now, and if we did 4%. I'm just curious to see how much this woman's going to get, even at 450K, which is like she scoffed at the number. Even at 4%, let's go to show more options. Amortization schedule. Here we go. So 7 years, right? So it's 2022. So in 2029, maybe I should share screen for this.
Do it. I think everybody needs to see it. What's a bank rate, Munif?
Okay. Bank rate is a website I use to figure out amortization schedules, meaning when I structure a seller finance deal, how much am I monthly paying in principal and interest, right? So this is something I use.
You underwrite all your deals?
Me?
Yeah.
Of course. I made a calculator of that.
Pardon me, Munif. I apologize.
Oh yeah, I have to. Okay, if I didn't, well, I used to not, right? I used to not, and then what happened is I couldn't talk to sellers until I talked to Noah, right?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? And then Noah's busy, so he's like, I'm busy, and then I'd be like, crap, and then it became a real problem for me. Here, let me share screen. Okay, so you guys can see the screen. Can you guys see the bank rate?
No.
What? Hold on. Chrome lost permissions to share screen. What the hell is this? All right, let's share screen. Let's share bank rate.
There we go.
Okay, great. So, but anyways, I actually had to learn how to underwrite, and I'll tell you a funny story. You're gonna love this story about underwriting because it's funny because I actually don't think about how much I actually underwrite on a day-to-day basis. But I'm going to get back to that. So this deal, $450,000, which is pretty much a little bit under ARV. We're going to do a 10% down, right? 4%, 30-year amortization schedule, right? And so when we look at the amortization schedule, this is how much we'll be paying. Our payments are $1,933 a month, right? And look, it's mostly interest. Like that's how amortization schedules work. You're paying $2,000, but they're mostly making interest. And for the first 7 years, let's say 2029, look at this. She's getting $130,000 in interest, right? This is the interest column. So she's making 450 plus 130. She's effectively selling the house for 580K.
Okay, so you're somebody who's watching this right now, right? Who doesn't know what the hell you just said. Munif, how is that possible? Why if you're buying the house from her, how are you buying it that you're going to be paying her that much interest? Why are you paying only interest up front? Are you getting a special loan? What's happening? Why are you
It's
doing
how every traditional loan is structured. I mean, when you buy a house through a bank, they'll front the seller, let's say the 450K, they're going to want you to bring in 20% down. So that'll be $90,000 they'll want you to put down in the house. And then they're going to want, let's say 4%. They're going to want pretty much the same thing. And banks do something called an amortization schedule, meaning all your payments, you're mostly paying interest and you're paying a little bit of principal. And as you make payments, the principal amount you pay, right? Principal is how much of the money that you actually borrowed you're paying back. Interest is what the bank is making profit from just lending you money, right? So you mostly pay interest up front in an amortization schedule. And
so is this happening because you're taking over her property earlier on in the in her mortgage cycle, or why did that happen?
what do you mean? Why are we doing an
Why
amortization?
is she getting, so if you're paying her, why is she getting the majority of that interest versus the bank?
Because she's the bank. I'm not going to a bank for a loan. She's giving me the loan. She's saying, "Hey, I'll be the bank for you. You give me the interest payments instead of the bank, and I get to make extra money. I get to make all the money the bank would have made. And now I get to not only sell my house for that price, I actually get to make all that money in interest. So she wins, right? She got the 4%. She's making all that interest money. She gets to make me refinance the property in 7 years. So she's winning on multiple fronts. Hell, she's even getting 10% down. And I told her I typically make 0% down, and maybe I'll make up to 3.5%, right? And I anchored her low. Do I sometimes do 10%? Yeah, I do. But when I say I typically do 3.5% on the highest, her wanting 10% is quite high. She might be willing to work with me to do a 5% or 7.5% down, and she still feels like she won.
So she knows no mortgage on this.
She has no mortgage. She owns it outright.
So for people who are into the creative financing world, who they're new to it, and they have the paradigm, I'm going to go for people who have a mortgage, I'm taking over that mortgage subject too, they can still, even if someone doesn't have a mortgage, and taking over the mortgage subject too is no longer an option because there's no mortgage to take over, right? They can still structure good deals for the person and buy it on terms.
You can actually structure the best deals that way, because when the seller is the bank, because when you take over payments, you're taking over, payments that a bank had already set the terms for. Mm-hmm. When you and the seller work and there's no bank, they own it outright. You can set whatever terms you want. If the seller wants, if the seller says every year you've got to bring me a pony, that can be in the terms, right? You can get as creative as you want. That's how you can get a lot of 0% interest deals.
The ponies?
Not the ponies, but
ponies in lieu of interest. I think that's a good pitch.
In lieu, hey, look, I'm not going to give you interest on your money, but I'm going to bring you a horse every year.
You can get 3 points or 3 ponies.
Yeah.
You decide, right? The choice is pretty clear in that option.
So bro, you asked me if I underwrite deals, right? And the answer is funny because I was like, of course, right? But then you're like, okay, bro. I was like, wait a minute. I'm so sorry. It's because I've done so many. Of course. But like, bro, 3 months ago, no, I wasn't. 2 months ago, no, I wasn't, right? And I'm like, actually, it feels like it's been a lifetime, but it's only been 50, 60 days. And I didn't know how to do them. And I was going to Noah every time. And Noah was like, hey, I can't, I'll underwrite everything, but it'll give me like a day. And I'm like, I don't have a day. I need answers now. So he's like, well, watch my videos. He's like, watch. He has so many videos on how to underwrite these Airbnbs. So I sit down. It was actually New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. I didn't go out and party. I'm like, let me learn how to underwrite for like the new year. And I stayed up like till 2 a.m. I get maybe 30 minutes, right? Because I was doing all this other work and I'm like, let me actually underwrite. I get 30 minutes into his videos. And I'm like, I can't do this. This is the most painstaking, tedious process because you got to get on AirDNA. You got to like underwrite the basic deal, but then you got to actually get data points from AirDNA. You have to log into AirDNA. AirDNA is a little funky. You got to put in the right stuff, the bedroom, the bathroom. You got to get data, and then you got to figure out how to average the data, right? Because it gives you gross data. You got to average it, and you got to look at the different performances of the different Airbnbs. Some Airbnbs,
Swear to God, I just fell asleep.
right? It's I literally like wanted to die, right? I was like, I'm not doing this. And you do a lot of it by hand. You literally like AirDNA in a lot of ways, they don't spit out reports on the way Noah likes to underwrite. They spit out some reports, but they don't spit out certain reports. So I can't just put it into Excel. So I literally, bro, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I was like, I'm never doing this again. I can't believe Noah spends 30 to 45 minutes every deal doing this. This is ridiculous. So I literally stopped learning how to underwrite using his method. And I literally, dude, go and I hire a developer to make me this calculator. Can you guys see my screen?
No.
Oh shit. Okay. Here. Hold on. So I call a developer and I'm like, hey, I need this I need this thing built, right? And he's like, I need access to AirDNA's backend. And I literally call AirDNA. I spend like 4 or 5.
Oh, is this what you shared the other day?
Yeah, dude.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear this. Okay.
Dude, I freaking call AirDNA and I'm like, guys, I need access to your database. Your shit sucks. And they're like, we know. It's going to cost you $1,000 a month.
Okay.
To get access to our database. And after 4, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to close AirDNA. Fuck this. Bro, I got them at $200 a month.
Let's go.
And I now this calculator pulls data from their database. And if I click it, here we go. So let's say I do like Houston, right? Houston, Texas. Let's do a 5-bedroom. And I search. It'll show me, and I can actually change these, right? I can set the cleaning fee, whatever I want. But it'll show me the top, it says 75th percentile. That's just math for top 25% of Airbnbs. 90 percentile is just math talk for top 10% of Airbnbs. Okay. But it'll show me, I'll put in my PITI, my utilities, and even my private money I'll put in. And I can change all of these, right? These are just some defaults, and it'll actually plug out, my net cash flow. It'll actually plug out. So it pulls this data here from Airbnb.
You know what's crazy to me? You know what I just realized, Munif?
What?
Like we go back like diapers and big crayons, right? Sandbox. We go way back.
Yes.
You know how many Airbnb deals you've broken down for me?
How many?
Guess in the chat, guys. Guess in the chat. Guess anybody got numbers? Anybody got numbers? It rhymes with hero. There you go. Big fan booth. Got it. It's okay. Sometimes I get it, Mooney. Sometimes you make it big time. Sometimes you become the guy, and then you forget the little people, and it's cool. It's cool. It's totally fine.
I'll make new friends. Sorry, Daniel. I'm so sorry. You know what? I actually leave myself hanging a lot of times where there are juicy deals, and I just before this calculator, I just made it to solve this problem because Noah can only do so many things in a day. Guess what? Mm-hmm. He's managing over 60 properties, right? And most of them are pacers. And so every time I'm like, Noah, please spend 30, 40, 50 minutes helping me underwrite this. It means he's not picking up phone calls of like a toilet on fire or something, right? So then I had to learn it. And then this whole process was just a a nightmare because I'm not going to spend 40 minutes underwriting
Yeah.
every, right? So I built this literally for me. I was like, I'm not doing this. The only way I'd ever do this is if I had a calculator. Now the calculator has a couple bugs. It's a little glitchy, so I'm gonna have to, beta test it and fix all the bugs. But this is something I think down the line we'll be sharing to the sub two community.
So here's what's funny. I'm in the process. So I'm going to probably talk about this down a little bit on the nightly dial. So yesterday I had this conversation. We'll figure it out what the details are. But you know that my grandmother passed away a little over a week ago, and we've been dealing with that. And her husband, they were married since I was 3, so he's basically like my grandpa, right? His family is moving him into like a facility, and so they were going through this whole process of getting everything moved out, doing the estate sale, and all these different things. And so we kind of had to, because this is all last minute, we had to run over there yesterday and kind of figure all this out. So I asked them, and we kind of came to a verbal agreement at this point. I offered to buy the house because I want to keep it in the family. I want to just be able to buy the house, and appreciate that, Dustin. Yeah, it's been a transition for sure, man. It definitely has. But I said, look, let me buy the house, and what were you going to make from the estate sale? And they told me the number, and I said, okay, how about I give you an extra $1,000, right? And I'll just pay for it. Just don't do these, just leave it. I'll just buy the house as is with that, right? And so they're on board with that. And so now the question becomes, like, I want to keep the house, so I'm probably going to look into like Airbnb.
Where is it?
It's here in Albuquerque.
Oh, it's in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Are you buying it sub 2?
No, cash. That's what's going to get tough. I'm gonna have to get some money for it. Like, and I want to see if I can make this kind of a special thing, and maybe kind of work with some people in the sub 2 community, because it's a last minute thing. It's I'm probably going to pay too much for the house, in full transparency, right?
Why cash? You can't do this creatively?
No, it's just not an option. They want to, like, their goal was to just sell it, get the money, and put it over to, his estate or what have you. It's the difficult thing when you're dealing with family, and I think everybody's trying their best to be considerate of one another. And so the last thing I want to do is come in and, make any waves. I just want to make it as pleasant as possible. And so for me, the way my mindset is, if I have to overpay for the house just to be able to accomplish the goal of keeping the house in the family, that's what I'm going to do. So they're just going to get an appraisal done and probably just ask me for whatever the appraiser says, right? They're going to probably get a couple of appraisals done and find whatever number they like the most out of those. And that'll be it. We'll add a state fee on there, which is going to be like 10 grand.
That's not
and then that's it. So I was like, okay, cool. Just we'll add the 10 grand.
How many bedrooms and bathrooms?
So right now it's an old-fashioned house, right? The house is completely old. They got the same. It looks the same as it did when I was 3 years old, right? So it's definitely, but they've lived there for a long time. It has 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, but it's also got a kitchen, a traditional living room, and then a family room, or a living room and a den or something like that, right? So I think it's interesting. Like, I think there's a lot of cool things that could really be done with it from an Airbnb standpoint. And so I'm not really sure. I haven't gone into this road. My mind says that over time we could probably make some. Okay.
How do you spell Albuquerque?
ALBUQUER. . Boom, right there.
3-bedroom?
Elena, you're my favorite. 3-bedroom, yeah.
So don't ignore the net cash flow. This is all preset, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at the gross, right? Look, you're looking at, if you're a top 25% performer, right? You're you're looking at 4,300 gross. If you're top 10%, you're looking at 6,400 gross, which is pretty good, man. I mean, what's the purchase price? What are you thinking this thing will raise?
Let's go crazy and call it 325. I think I'm probably moving closer to 260.
So let's go to bank rate, right? Let's actually look at what we're looking at here. Calculate your mortgage payment. So I'm going to share I'm going to share. I'm going to reset the screen here. Share screen, window, Chrome tab, bank rate. Okay, great. So, we're looking at 325. And I mean, here's oh, that's wrong. That's not right. Let's say 325, right?
Okay.
What do you? I mean, would this be like a 20% down thing, or you
No,
said
I mean, it'd be a cash deal. So it'd be 100. Like I'd just be out of pocket, like the full 325. And so depending on how I do it, right? Like, I don't know. Like ideally what would be really cool, man, is to kind of emphasize the power of the sub 2 community, like Pace talks about, and see if I can get private money for this whole thing. And then maybe float the private money for a year and then convert that into like a rental loan or something.
Yeah, but so I mean, the private money is going to cost you, right? Because like private money
for sure
has a cost to it, right? So like, say somebody fronts the whole house, maybe what ends up happening is the down payment zero, right? But there is an interest rate to it, right?
Yeah.
So like
probably 10% or something crazy like that. You know what I mean?
But look at that. Like, look at that. That's 3,100, right?
Yeah.
So at 10% for the whole thing. I mean, what you could do, there's a few things you can do, right? Like maybe one way is you actually partner with somebody who has a W-2, right? And and maybe they can get a 4% loan, right?
Yeah.
And
just like a finance partner.
Yeah, and look, they'll use their let's say they use their W-2, and you buy them out at the end of it, right? So like you say, hey, I'm trying to do this, like I'll profit share with you or whatever for a certain amount of years, and then depending on the equity, I'll buy you out of this deal. You know what I mean? And you'll get paid. I want to keep this in the family, but you can make some serious money here. I'm the real estate expert. You've got a W-2. You can get qualified for loans. So let's use that. Let's use your W-2 and your credit. So let's maybe get a loan on this. And then maybe Daniel, maybe you have to come up with 65K, right? Maybe. Which maybe that is easier to get at private money 2%, right? And now you're looking at a monthly payment of let's say 1521. And if I pull up my calculator here, so 65K at 10%, right? 65K times, oh, my calculator's tripping.
You're still on the other thing. You can't share screen instead of tab, so you can swap.
Yeah, let me share screen actually. Let me share screen so you can actually see my.
God, this is what I love about this, right? Like, there's so many. Like this is the conversation I had last night, right? Like this was so I've put not a huge amount of thought into like all of the different options. But this is what I love about what we do, because I know that in that conversation, regardless of whatever terms I come to with them, I got a million options to be able to figure this out, make it bankable, make the numbers make sense.
Right. So look, it's $540, 1521.
You're still not shared.
You can't see my screen?
No, señor. No,
Chrome has lost permission to capture
again.
Why is it doing this?
I think Chrome needs to improve its confidence, right? Stop asking, right? It's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Seriously, here, it'll let
walk
me
in authority, Chrome.
It'll let me do. I think it'll let me do window.
The thing is, I don't know if I'm bankable, Elena. Like, I haven't had a job in forever.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying partner with somebody who has a W-2, right?
Yeah. So I think that makes sense.
So here we go. Okay, just so the PITI, what I'm getting from Bankrate, is about $1,500 a month. All right, and cleaning, let's say, what's the square footage of the house?
1,800 ish.
We'll say
cleaning. Maybe it's I don't know.
It's 600 a month, right?
Uh-huh.
What would a typical gas and electric bill be? I don't know.
They have solar, so their electric bill is like $20 a month. Gas is probably
Christ.
Yeah.
So let's say it's 100.
Yeah.
Water and garbage. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. There's actually a table I use as reference. What about the lot size?
I'll tell you right now. Lot size is house is built in 1963. 3 bedrooms, total baths.
All right, look at this, man. Like, look at this. Like we're just really just throwing stuff on here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, you can net cash flow potentially, depending on if you're the top 25%, you could cash flow $700 a month, right? And that's if it grosses 4,300. Now, if you're top 10% here, look at this number.
It's crazy how big of a
That's
difference
pretty
that is.
good, right?
Yeah.
So now you tell your guy, you say, look, this is the profit. Like I'll partner with you on this deal, and let's say in 7 years or 10 years, you let me buy you out, right? But in the meantime, you get half of this cash flow after we pay up all our creditors or whatever, and any appreciation we'll each own half of, right? And that's your buyout.
Yeah, that's a decent option. So
And
in Airbnb, what differentiates? How does one know if they're going to be in the top 10% or not?
oh, you just got to get good.
You got to get good.
You just got to get good.
GG.
You got to GG. You got to get good.
Got it. Okay. All right. Noted.
You know what I mean? That's it. That's it. You just gotta fucking. You just gotta.
gotta
I
do it.
literally, yeah, like I got like I'm doing an Airbnb in Phoenix. Yeah, exactly. Big Bucci gets it.
GG's.
Yeah, you
Let's
gotta
go.
get it. And so what refi you can get 100? Yeah. So what's JB Bullock actually does this model I told you about? He actually does this model. Elena's correct. JB
Oh,
Bullock.
awesome.
Maybe he, I believe he's in sub 2. You should reach out to him. He's amazing. He does this model, and he partners with people who have W-2s to actually acquire. His goal is he wants 100 short-term rentals by the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
I believe in him. I believe he can do it, and his business model is dope. It's super dope, and he partners with people. So maybe ask him for help. Reach out to JB to see like how he's doing it, and you want to do this one for your your family house, pretty much, right? Keep it in the family.
Yeah.
So Elena's awesome. So she'll connect.
Elena's the best, literally the best. She's actually better than you, which I didn't know was possible. But
that's so that like you could ask anybody that they would say the same thing.
Dude, but it's okay. So beforehand, it was a little bit more realistic, but then you grew the stash and like, bro, the bar, like just way up there. You know what I mean? How do we compete with that? I'm not sure.
This just appeared the day I resigned from my W-2.
It did. This guy woke up. You guys ever saw the Santa Claus back in the day where he just woke up and there was a beard?
Yeah.
Munif quit his job and he woke up with a dope.
Well, I hit submit and I turned around and it was just there. And I was like, what?
Let's go. Hashtag level up. Yeah, honestly, guys, like this is what's so here's a cool thing. One thing I love about Albuquerque is the balloon fiesta. Are you familiar with the balloon fiesta?
No.
So it's apparently like one of the biggest tourist events in the world. It's definitely the biggest balloon fiesta in the world. You're familiar with like hot air balloons, right? They float up and so the biggest one in the world happens here in Albuquerque. New Mexico, Albuquerque has this naturally existing skybox, apparently. So where the thing stops, the balloons go up and the wind will take you in a perfect square and take you back.
That's dope.
Which is, yeah, it's just the way it works out here, right? And so with the climate and the temperatures every October, people come from all over the world, literally all over the world. People will ship their balloons and it's like this gigantic thing. And apparently Airbnbs will quadruple in their rates for the 2 weeks of the balloon fiesta.
You know, and I think you find somebody that, look, the terms I showed you, bro, how much money out of your pocket is that?
With that situation, none.
Right? So like you can do this. You just have to find the right people. You just have to find the right people who, you know, may want to learn how to, and this is a creative deal that you're actually structuring using cash. Like, you know what I mean? Like the sellers, they get paid out, and you go get a loan, but you actually partner with somebody. They use their cash, their credit, whatever. And maybe if you do it properly, you know, this can be if you really do it, you can get it under 20% down if you qualify for certain kinds of financing using certain lenders. So I love it. I think you should definitely explore it. And, you know, there's definitely a way here. And so you asked me a question, how do I get in the top 10%? What I do is I look on Airbnb. I go to, you know, let's say Albuquerque Airbnbs. I go on the app and I look at like the highest priced places and I see what they're doing. Okay. Right. So like I get ideas from like performing Airbnbs, people who are just crushing it. And I'm like, man, these guys are top 10%. I got to, you know, level up and be in that, you know, that threshold. And so, like for example, the Phoenix Airbnb, I'm probably gonna pay somebody $2,000 to paint a mural in one of the walls.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like things like that. Like you might have to do to be in the top 10%, which is hard to do. It's not easy to be in
Yeah.
the top 10%, but um, that's why we typically underwrite it at like top 25%, right? Which is a lot easier to do, man. But
Sure.
the cash flow isn't necessarily there for you. $700, $500 in cash flow is tight. It's going to be harder to bring in a funding partner if that's your cash flow, right?
Yeah. And honestly, like for me in this situation, right, you're buying it cash, you're doing all of these different things. And for me, what's again, like here's what I love. Oh, dope. See,
Yep,
that's
exactly.
good stuff.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
See, this is why I love this industry, man. Like, and I've worked in a lot of industries. I know a lot of people who do a lot of different things. Like, we've all been around the block. And what I love about real estate, and especially this community, is that there is really no limit to the options that are available. The limit is really, obviously just the legalities of things, which we all stay within. It's our own imagination and our willingness to do the things, and that's what's exciting to me because if I put in the work and I'm able to get this and able to structure it the way I want, right? Like, there's 100 people who could help with this just in sub 2 alone, right? Whether I make a huge amount of money on this or not, I can make up for it, right? Maybe I give somebody else the majority of the cash flow and I make it somewhere else, or there's just so many different things that you can do. And I think it's important to know. Why do I say that this is important? Because a lot of times, guys, we get caught up in our lives and the things that are happening. And a lot of times it's very easy to feel like we're at the mercy of the circumstances that exist in our lives.
Right.
And I think a lot of us don't realize that we actually have a lot more control than we think we have. We have a lot more leverage and power to take authority over the things that are happening in our lives than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that's specifically true for people who are in the sub 2 community, right? It's really, really amazing to realize that all you have to do is make a phone call or send a text message or put a post out, and a lot of problems can be solved.
Oh, for sure, 100%. This isn't easy, right? Like, look, I'll show you guys. This is my first Airbnb. I'll show you my first Airbnb. This is my first Airbnb and my first rental piece of real estate I've ever gotten. Pace gave me a challenge to buy one Airbnb by the end of the year. I ended up buying 3, but this is the first one, and this one got it became live just
pretty, bro.
Right, and so we had a lot of challenges. This was not a, open and shut slam dunk, but to be, a top performer, you've got to get things like art. You've got to make the photos look attractive. So this just went live, and we have something special in this property that makes it really unique, and it's called the game room.
Nice.
So you love this, Daniel. It's got arcades. You got Teenage
Mutant
Ninja Turtles. You've got a couple other Street Fighter, Pac-Man. You've got
that's dope.
You've got air hockey. You've got photos.
I have a foosball table upstairs that's sitting there collecting dust that my girlfriend would love.
Yes. So these are the things you do, and so this one, we just got the listing active. And this is a lucrative business. You can make a lot of money doing Airbnbs, but you have to do it properly. You need to have a good team. So like, I think that your idea here, bro, with the, buying this property, keeping it in the family, it's not how to do it. It's who can help you do it. It's who and how. It's getting the right people. Bro, I've never set up an Airbnb, but guess who has? My partner, Noah.
Yeah.
Right. It's who, not how. So, yep. Elena says, please hire a good photographer. Pics are key. It's worth the investment to get good photos. 1,000%. 1,000%. But you got this. Look, you got resources like Elena, JB, me, Noah. Like, we're here for you. No problem, man. Seriously, you got this.
You guys are dope. That's what this is about, right? Like, we come on here and we never really know what we're going to talk about. But what I love about what we do for a living, Munif, is just the opportunities are endless. Like, how many career paths can you randomly in the middle of your day say, I'm going to do a podcast? Maybe this week I'll talk about, Airbnbs, and then another week we'll talk about mold and how to better our health. You
Oh
know what
my
I mean?
God. Right.
And at
Exactly.
the same time, we're taking back our families, in keeping houses in our family and changing legacies, and starting 6-figure February challenges and maybe $1 million marches, and elevating to people to challenge themselves into a better future. There's not a lot of places you can find stuff like this, man. I love it.
I love that. Who coined 6-figure February? I love it. Yeah, it was you.
Yeah.
That's dope, dude. I love it. I think I saw Marlon Johnson make a post about it, and I was like, this is so
Yeah.
genius. I love
So we got to figure it out. Like, we're going to try to make it a thing this week. So we came up with it, talking about it on the nightly dial. We were just talking about the kind of mindsets and believing it's possible. And the conversation kind of started, and I'll summarize, but it kind of started like, who thinks that it's possible that you can make 6 figures next month? This was July 31st, right? Monday. And, some people said yes. A lot of people said no. Right. And I said, okay, how many do you guys think that Pace can close a deal that can make it 6 figures next month? And everybody was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd probably do it tomorrow. Great. And so I asked one of the people that came up. Agnes was the one that volunteered. And Agnes was a representative for a lot of other people who were a little bit unsure if that's realistic. And I said, well, what do you think Pace has that will give him the ability? And she's like, well, he knows what he's doing. He knows, how to do it. I was like, okay, so we can call that information. He has the information to close a deal. And I was like, what else does he have? And she's like, well, he has a community. He can make a phone call, reach out to people, and he can make sure the deal gets done if he finds one. Great. So he's got information and a community to get behind his back. And you think those two things give him enough power to be able to close a deal that'll make him 6 figures in the month of February? She was like, yeah. And I said, which one of those things do you not have? Being a part of the Sub2 community, right? You have access to the information, and you have access to the exact same community. You have everything he has. The only difference is he believes he can do it, and he's willing to do the work. And so then we threw out a challenge, right? Let's make it a goal. And then Matt came in yesterday. I told him about it, and he leveled it up to $1 million. So I think we're going to make a thing. And if this, regardless of how many contracts get signed and how many 6-figure checks are made, I think for me the value of a challenge like this is the mindset. It's breaking barriers in our own head as to what's possible. Pace puts you a challenge, having never done Airbnbs before, to get one Airbnb, and you got 3 in 1 month. Like, stop it, dude. Like, freaking stop it.
Dude, it's like even more than that right now. It's like that's what I'm doing. Like,
yeah,
it's like my primary business model is like, how many Airbnbs can I buy? Like, so, I'm setting up Airbnbs. I'm creating infrastructure, systems, calculators. I want to be the local Airbnb barista who has, who like, oh, which kind of Airbnb do you want? Let me like.
every Airbnb has Starbucks cups plastered throughout.
Right, and it's. I mean, I don't know if you know, our company's name is Starbucks, STR Bucks.
Elena, you're gonna beat that by June. I don't know what you're talking about. I freaking love that, dude. So here's the thing, right? Like, and you've talked about this yourself. Munif, let me ask you a question, man. And as I know we're wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Talking about belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
From where you were, right? Because many people know, some people may not. Not too long ago, you were just a guy who was struggling to wonder if real estate was even possible, and you had your 9 to 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not very much longer later, you've quit your 9 to 5, and now you're like this Airbnb, mogul on the rise. How much of, right? Now we understand doing the work is a part of it, right? But apart from doing the work, which I hope everybody understands is a requirement, apart from doing the work, how much is mindset a factor? How much of this is mindset? Just believing you can do it.
It's like 20% work, 80% mindset. Like, people, like, look, if anybody who has less than 80% mindset, they're gonna end up working for somebody who has better mindset than them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the hardest workers at my W-2s. They can put the work in, right? And I see people putting work in every single day. They put the hard work in, but if they don't have the mindset, they're just going to work under people who got the mindset. Maybe some people are 100% mindset, 0% work, and they're going to figure out ways where they can, hire out people who do 100% work, 0% mindset, and they're going to make money, right? So yeah, it is. I mean, if you want to be in the pinnacle, you got to work. You got to work your ass off. But if you don't have the mindset, it's like good luck. Like, you're gonna.
Yeah.
going to lose to the person who believes in themselves, because at the end of the day, man, the world is not going to believe in you. The world, the day-to-day sellers you talk to, the lenders, people, they're not going to believe in you. So why give? You're already going to have people who doubt the capabilities. It's not your job to doubt your capabilities. It's everyone else's.
Yeah.
Right? You also doubt it. It's like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, this could be a whole podcast in and of itself. And speaking of that, for anybody who's in the sub 2 world, Elena, she does mindset Zooms all the time. She's amazing at stuff like this. So you guys, please jump into that. She's working on a bunch of cool things and different items and topics and trainings and courses on really not only how to have the right mindset for yourself, for your life, for your business, but how to evolve that into having a good conversation with sellers and the like. There's just so much opportunity here, guys. Like it's really it really is limitless. And honestly, man, like that's why for me these challenges, talking about like 6-figure February, for me it's just about letting people just break the mindset, like just believe it's possible. If you, even if someone doesn't make $1, but they believe by the end of the month that they can make 6 figures in a month, then the challenge was successful.
I love it. Daniel, Twitch, I have to go. I'm actually 5 minutes late to a meeting with me, Noah, and one of our private money lenders.
Nice.
So leave them hanging. Yep. So
don't do it.
Yeah, no. So this is how we buy. If you asked me a year ago, bro, Vinny, if you're gonna buy real estate using none of your own money, I would have been like, BS, bro, BS. And it's like, I buy 2 a month, none of my money. It's private money, right?
It's insane.
It's unreal, and it's just the mindset. It's just the mindset. Like, yeah, we can do it, no problem.
I freaking love it. We're in the right place. Munif, everybody, love you guys. Kill it. Have a good meeting, bro. Until next time.
Thank you, Daniel. Twitch, you guys are amazing. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for engaging. If you guys want Daniel to come back, go shout him out on Facebook. Go make a little post on the sub 2 page, the free creative financing page, or even on Instagram. Just tag Daniel, daniel.theq. I'll see you guys next time.